Cruel and evil. That's how the Bradenton police chief describes Keith Roberts Jr., who's accused of walking into a Bradenton medical lab yesterday and shooting two women. Police say one of the women was Roberts' ex-girlfriend. She died and her coworker was seriously injured.
Yeah, Fox 13's Kimberly Cuizon tonight has some new details about the suspected shooter and his motive.
January 15th, 2026, 12:45 in the afternoon. A woman sits at her desk, doing her job at a medical lab in Bradenton, Florida. Her ex-boyfriend walks through an unlocked door, carrying a shotgun and a handgun. He doesn't say a word, doesn't hesitate, just walks straight to her desk and opens fire at point-blank range. Listen, when the police chief calls you evil and says what you did can never be forgiven, you know it's bad. This is the story of Myshaela Burnham and Keith Roberts Jr. When the clock strikes midnight, the truth comes out. I'm 12 a.m. crime, and every single day I bring you real cases of domestic violence that turn deadly. The stories the system tried to bury, the victims who deserve justice. If you're about that raw, unfiltered truth, hit subscribe. New case drops every day at midnight. Don't sleep on justice. This is 12 a.m. crime. Myshaela Burnham was 29 years old, a mother, working her regular shift at a medical lab on 4th Avenue Circle East in Bradenton, Florida. That's what she was doing that Thursday afternoon in January. Just working, living her life. Keith Roberts Jr., also 29, worked as a security guard at Manatee Memorial Hospital. The irony isn't lost on anyone. A man whose job was to protect people, to keep them safe. That's what makes this whole thing even harder to process. The two of them had been in a long-term relationship. We don't know all the details of how they met or what their relationship looked like in the beginning. What we do know is that at some point, it ended. And it ended recently. Within the past month, according to Bradenton Police Chief Josh Kramer. 1 month. That's all the time that had passed since they broke up. Here's where things get real. We don't have a lot of information about what led to the breakup. No reports of prior incidents. No documented history of violence or restraining orders. At least nothing that's been made public. Sometimes that's how it goes. The most dangerous moments happen when there's no paper trail, no warnings, nothing that says, watch out for this person. What we do know is that Keith Roberts Jr. made a decision. Somewhere between the breakup and January 15th, he decided that Myshaela Burnham wasn't going to move on with her life. He decided that if their relationship was over, then her life would be too. And he planned it. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment thing. This wasn't an argument that got out of hand. Keith Roberts Jr. got himself a shotgun, got himself a handgun, and he knew exactly where Myshaela worked, knew exactly where her desk was inside that medical lab. Think about that for a second. He knew where she sat. He'd probably been there before, maybe picked her up from work, maybe dropped her off. Normal couple things. But now he was using that knowledge for something else entirely. Thursday, January 15th, 2026. Just after 12:45 p.m., Myshaela Burnham is at her desk inside the medical lab. It's the middle of the day, the middle of the work week. People are going about their business, doing their jobs, living their lives. Keith Roberts Jr. walks into the building. He's carrying a shotgun and a handgun. The door is unlocked. He doesn't have to break in, doesn't have to force his way inside. He just walks in. And here's the thing that makes your blood run cold. He doesn't look around, doesn't ask where she is, doesn't search for her. He walks directly to Myshaela's desk. Bradenton Police Chief Josh Kramer put it like this.
Directly opened fire at point-blank range.
Point-blank range. Let me tell you something. That means he was close. Real close. Chief Kramer said,
Closer than you and I likely are right now, with a shotgun, multiple times.
Myshaela didn't have a chance. She's sitting at her desk, and suddenly her ex-boyfriend is standing right there with a shotgun, and he pulls the trigger multiple times, but it gets worse. Myshaela had a coworker sitting at the desk right next to hers, an adjoining desk. That's how close they were sitting to each other. And when Keith opened fire with that shotgun at such close range, the blast hit her coworker too. Think about that. The woman sitting next to Myshaela, just doing her job, minding her business, gets caught in the blast because Keith Roberts Jr. was standing that close when he started shooting. The chief said,
Some of it hitting the other victim who was at just an adjoining desk. That's how close it was.
And Keith wasn't done. After he shot Myshaela multiple times with the shotgun, he pulled out the handgun. Chief Kramer described it as premeditated. He said,
With a shotgun, multiple times.
At this point, Myshaela Burnham is gone. She's already been shot multiple times with a shotgun at point-blank range. But Keith keeps going. He switches to the handgun and keeps shooting. Her coworker, the woman at the adjoining desk, she got hit with both. Shotgun blast and handgun blast. Chief Kramer said,
I was shot multiple times. I mean, shotgun blast and handgun blast. She's lucky to be alive, really is, and we're all praying for her to safe recovery.
Lucky to be alive. That's what it came down to for this woman. She went to work that day, sat down at her desk next to her coworker, and ended up fighting for her life because someone else's ex-boyfriend decided to commit murder. The people inside that medical lab, the ones who witnessed what happened, they're never going to forget it. Chief Kramer called Keith Roberts Jr. a terrorist. He said, "This man is a terrorist. He terrorized those people's lives." And that's exactly what he did. He walked into a place of work, a medical lab where people are supposed to feel safe, and he turned it into a crime scene. He took a life. He nearly took another, and he traumatized everyone who was there. After the shooting, Keith Roberts Jr. didn't stick around. He ran, got in his car, and took off. But the people inside that lab, the witnesses who saw what happened, they acted fast. They gave police a description of his vehicle. They gave information. They did what they needed to do. Chief Kramer called them heroes. He said, "Those witnesses are heroes." They stood up and said, "I know information on this." 20 minutes. That's how long Keith Roberts Jr. was free after he murdered Myshaela Burnham. 20 minutes after the shooting, Manatee County deputies pulled him over based on the vehicle description. When they stopped him, he made statements that showed he knew exactly why they were pulling him over. He knew what he'd done. When officers from the Bradenton Police Department arrived at the medical lab in the 5200 block of 4th Avenue Circle East, they walked into a scene that nobody should ever have to see. 2 victims, one with fatal gunshot wounds, the other fighting for her life. Myshaela Burnham was already gone, 29 years old, a mother. Her life ended at her desk, where she'd come to work that day, just trying to make a living, trying to provide for her child. Her coworker was rushed to the hospital. She'd been hit multiple times, shotgun pellets, handgun rounds. She was in bad shape, real bad. She went into surgery right away. And honestly, the fact that she survived is nothing short of a miracle. When you get hit with a shotgun blast at close range and then shot with a handgun multiple times, the odds aren't in your favor. The investigation itself didn't take long to piece together, not because the detectives weren't thorough, but because the witnesses were clear about what they saw. They knew who did it. They knew what vehicle he drove. They gave police everything they needed. Those witnesses, the people who were inside that medical lab when Keith Roberts Jr. walked in and started shooting, They had to relive the most traumatic moment of their lives to help police. They had to describe what they saw, what they heard, the terror they felt, and they did it anyway because they wanted justice for Myshaela. Chief Kramer wasn't exaggerating when he called them heroes. In situations like this, witnesses sometimes freeze up. Sometimes they're too scared to come forward. Sometimes they don't want to get involved. But these people stood up. They gave statements. They provided the vehicle description that led to Keith's arrest. The forensics were straightforward. This wasn't a mystery. Keith Roberts Jr. walked into that lab with 2 weapons, shot Myshaela Burnham multiple times at point-blank range, shot her coworker, and left. The evidence was everywhere. Shell casings, blood, witnesses. There was no question about what happened or who did it. What detectives had to figure out was the why. And really, when you're dealing with domestic violence that escalates to murder, the why is almost always the same. Control, possession. The idea that if I can't have you, nobody can. It's a story that plays out too many times, in too many places, with too many women losing their lives at the hands of men who claimed to love them. Keith Roberts Jr. and Myshaela Burnham had ended their relationship within the past month. 1 month. And in that time, Keith made the decision that Myshaela didn't get to move on, didn't get to live her life without him, didn't get to be a mother to her child, didn't get to grow old, didn't get to find happiness again. He took all of that away from her. In less than a minute, with a shotgun and a handgun, he erased her future.
Those who witnessed what happened inside this medical lab office off of 4th Avenue Circle East in Bradenton will never forget it.
This man's a terrorist. He terrorized those people's lives.
Bradenton Police Chief Josh Kramer says Keith Roberts Jr. entered the lab on Thursday afternoon, armed with a shotgun and handgun. Inside, his ex-girlfriend, Myshaela Burnham, was working at a desk.
Directly opened fire at point-blank range, closer than you and I, like we are right now, with a shotgun, multiple times. Some of it hitting the other victim, who was at just an adjoining desk. That's how close it was that the blast hit her too.
BPD says Roberts was a security guard at Manatee Memorial Hospital. He and Burnham were in a long-term dating relationship, which recently ended. The shooting left Burnham dead and her coworker fighting for her life.
Was shot multiple times. I mean, shotgun blast and handgun blasts. She's lucky to be alive. Really is, and we're all praying for her to safe recovery.
Bradenton police say Roberts took off in his car, but a description of the vehicle led to his arrest less than 20 minutes after the shooting. And Bradenton police say he made statements which indicated he knew why he was being stopped.
Those witnesses are heroes. You know, they stood up and said, I know information on this.
Yes.
Roberts showed little emotion from jail as he faced a judge during his first appearance Friday. He will remain here until a pretrial detention hearing, charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder. Burnham was a mother. At 29, her life was taken too soon.
The cruelty and the evil that Keith Roberts portrayed yesterday can never be forgiven.
From Manatee County, Kimberly Quizon, Fox 13 News.
So Bradenton police say that Burnham's co-worker underwent surgery and is in stable condition, but will have a long road of recovery ahead of her. Roberts' pretrial detention hearing will be held next Friday at 8:30 in the morning.
Keith Roberts Jr. didn't get far. 20 minutes after he walked out of that medical lab, Manatee County deputies spotted his vehicle based on the description witnesses provided. They pulled him over, and when they did, he made statements that showed he knew exactly why he was being stopped. He wasn't confused, wasn't surprised. He knew. He was arrested on the spot and charged with first-degree murder with a firearm and attempted first-degree murder with a firearm. Both charges carry serious weight. First-degree murder in Florida can mean life in prison or the death penalty. Attempted first-degree murder can mean decades behind bars. The next day, Friday, January 17th, Keith appeared before a judge for his first appearance. And listen, the way he showed up to that hearing tells you everything you need to know about him. No emotion, no remorse. Just blank, like he hadn't just taken a woman's life and nearly taken another. Like he hadn't just destroyed families. Like he hadn't just traumatized an entire workplace. The judge ordered him held in jail until his pre-trial detention hearing, which was scheduled for Friday, January 24th, at 8:30 in the morning. No bail. He's staying right where he belongs. As of now, the case is still moving through the system. Keith Roberts Jr. is facing the consequences of his actions, but nothing the court does will bring Myshaela back. Nothing will erase the trauma her coworker is dealing with. Nothing will heal the witnesses who saw what happened. Myshaela Burnham's coworker is in stable condition now. She made it through surgery. But Chief Kramer said she has a long road to recovery ahead of her. Physically, sure. But mentally, emotionally, that kind of trauma doesn't just go away. She's going to be dealing with this for the rest of her life. Myshaela's child is growing up without a mother. That's the reality. A child who will never get to hug their mom again, never hear her voice again, never make new memories with her. All because Keith Roberts Jr. couldn't handle the fact that their relationship was over. Chief Josh Kramer didn't mince words when he talked about Keith. He said, "The cruelty and evil that Keith Roberts portrayed yesterday can never be forgiven. Can never be forgiven." And honestly, he's right. How do you forgive someone who walks into a workplace in the middle of the day and executes their ex-girlfriend at point-blank range? How do you forgive someone who doesn't care that an innocent coworker is sitting right there and could get hit too? How do you forgive someone who shows no emotion, no remorse, no humanity? You don't. You can't. This case is another reminder of how dangerous domestic violence can be. We talk about it all the time on this channel because it keeps happening. Over and over and over. Women ending relationships and paying for it with their lives. Men who can't accept rejection, can't accept that a woman has the right to walk away, can't accept that love doesn't mean ownership. Myshaela Burnham was 29 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was a mother. She was a worker. She was a person. And Keith Roberts Jr. decided that none of that mattered more than his own feelings, his own ego, his own desire for control. She went to work on January 15th, 2026, probably thinking about what she'd make for dinner, or what she needed to pick up from the store, or how her child's day was going. Normal thoughts, normal life. And she never came home. That's the reality of domestic violence. It doesn't always give you warning signs. It doesn't always escalate slowly. Sometimes it's just over. One moment you're at your desk working, and the next moment your ex is standing there with 2 guns and your life is done. Girl, this one is heavy. It's hard to process. It's hard to understand. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not supposed to understand it. Maybe we're just supposed to remember Myshaela's name, remember what happened to her, and keep talking about domestic violence until something changes. Because right now, too many women are dying at the hands of men who claim they loved them. Myshaela Burnham deserved better. Her coworker deserved better. Her child deserved to grow up with a mother. And Keith Roberts Jr. deserves every single day he spends behind bars for what he did. This is 12 a.m. crime. We tell these stories because they matter. Because the victims matter. Because maybe, just maybe, if we keep talking about it, someone out there will recognize the signs in their own relationship and get out before it's too late. Rest in peace, Myshaela Burnham.